Hi guys, Sharam Namdarian here. In this video, we're going to be talking a lot more about weight loss through meditation and what exactly it is in the form of a little bit of a manifesto. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Sharam Namdarian. I'm a dating life coach. I do a lot of stuff. What I really do is I look at people's emotions. We figure out what needs to be healed, what we are holding ourselves back from in order to create and be the person we were born to be. Now, interesting thing, is when I was working with people one-on-one when it came to dating, relationships, sexuality, all that sort of stuff, what I found is sure, learning tips and tricks on what to do worked, but actually helping them heal grief, issues of the past, actually allowed them to do pretty much everything that you see online instinctually. So my coaching became a lot more profound then because I was focusing a lot less on telling people what to do and what to say and helping them become who they were actually born to be. Now, when it comes to your body, for example, I would argue that unless you are really just going at it and maybe at the gym and with fitness, that if you look in the mirror, you might not necessarily be so happy with what you see. Or maybe if you step on the scales. And if you are, you can stop watching this video. You've achieved, you've done the thing, get out of here. You just move on. But in this video, I'm going to be talking a lot more about a process that I am currently pioneering called weight loss through meditation, my self-experiments, and the journey that I've been on so far. So you don't necessarily have to wait till the end of the journey that I'm on to just get the goodies, you know? At the end of the thing, there might be some program or something like that to help facilitate this. But the general idea here is that we eat for a number of reasons. You know, we eat for reasons such as, sustenance. We eat, but we also eat for a number of emotional reasons, such as comfort, such as boredom, such as pain, such as anxiety, such as grief, such as despair, such as sadness. And it's really important to consider all of these emotions because when we are trying to lose weight, right? And we are eating because we are sad or we are depressed or something like that, what that actually does is that counterbalances that. Now, there's an interesting thing about weight loss that I've learned through this journey that I'm on. And the interesting thing is that, honestly, let me ask you this. How do you lose weight? Just very simple. How do you lose weight? You already know. Eat less. It's I'm not a genius to say just eat less because the information is out there. You know, there's a million diets out there. There's a million ideas that will help you just create the body that you want to create. You know, I'm not here to tell you, eat this, eat this, eat this, eat this, eat this. I'm not a personal trainer. That's not what I do. That's not my bread and butter. But the thing is that I learned is that what happens is that people will say, you'll bounce back. You know, I had a lot of times I would try the 800 diet, really good diet. I lost like 15 kilos in that. And people would say, you'll bounce back. And I fucking hated that. But guess what I did? I bounced back. And I would try all these other diets and I would bounce back. I was at one time borderline anorexic. I would bounce back. All because when I stared in the mirror, it was not the person that I think that I was born to be, at least at this age. So what happened was I then decided to go deep. I then decided to look at the shit that was going on inside me, the reasons why I ate, the feelings that I would eat. And I decided to treat every feeling in relationship to food as an emotional hang-up or an emotional attachment. So for example, feeling hungry might be suppressed emotional attachment. Feeling sad or feeling grief after you're eating food, you're so guilty, you're like, oh God, might be a suppressed emotional attachment. And all of these feelings are to be forgiven, to be loved, to be let go, to be healed in order to create the eating habit that is bespoke for you as a person. Because to be honest, all these diets didn't work with me. You know, this is one of the reasons why I had to pioneer this. All these diets didn't work with me. They were like, intermittent fast, because that way you're fasting while you sleep. And it's like, but I'm not sleeping during those times. I work crazy hours. I get to bed at 10 a.m. because I've worked some nights all night. You know, it's like, you don't necessarily get to follow those diets all the time. And they are a big assumptions that you have certain things in your life and you live a certain lifestyle. So I really feel like we know what we need to do, you know, even if that is to learn something new. We know what we need to do. You know that if you don't have the body you want, you might have to eat a bit less. Or if you want to gain more muscle, you might have to eat a bit more. And if you don't know that, you know you might have to ask someone who does, or do the research, or get an education around the topic. So what is it, the thing that stops us from actually eating in a way that manifests our highest true self? What is the thing that stops that? And I would say it's these emotional attachments. It's these emotional attachments we have to food and the weird feelings that we have linked to that. So the first thing that I did, and I have a huge, So the first thing that I did was, although I have documented this entire process that I've been on that has been interesting for me, and I probably will release that later on, the first thing that I did was I had to surrender to my actual habits. Now that's a scary thing in itself, because what do we want to do? You know, if you're feeling sad, you probably want to go eat the ice cream. If you're feeling angry, you probably want to do something that feels like it hurts someone else. I don't know about you, but I had some weird habits. So while I do have on my phone here a in-depth analysis of every step that I've taken so far, this video purpose, by the way, is the journey so far has gone from weight gain to a stable weight loss and a little bit on the negative side. So what's interesting here is that the moment you start surrendering to your desires, which is the first step, right? You got to surrender to your desires. You got to allow yourself to want to eat those foods. The things that we've suppressed is we're actually trying to forgive ourselves and allow ourselves to be the person we were born to be. But that actually starts with taking off those weird restrictions that we put on ourselves. So the first thing I actually went through, for example, was I had to let go of all the layers of things that people have taught me, you know, or let go of all those attachments that I had to, oh, but people say you got to eat this many calories. People say you got to work out this many times. You got to do these things. And what happens is we often put these layers on ourselves to protect ourselves because we feel like we don't know. The moment you realize that you can start to trust yourself a little bit more, especially when it comes to your diet, what ends up happening is that, well, you start to shed those layers. Now, some of the things, I'll read some of these things from the list that I actually think. So the first thing, I had to let go of the layers that the world told me what I had to do when it comes to weight loss. That included letting go of some of the things that actually worked, because they worked, but they didn't work long term. The reason from an emotional healing perspective, the reason why these things don't work long term is because there's still a part of you that is held in the past. And that's the part of you that is addicted to those foods because you're addicted to sadness or grief or all those things that need to be processed. Once you process them, you actually allow your higher self, the part of you that knows what to eat and what to do, to actually facilitate those things. So then I had to start looking at and healing the various reasons why I eat. So if I was feeling sad, I actually had to forgive myself for feeling sad, let go of feeling sad, allow myself to do whatever the process is that you do. I have my process that when I'm working with people, I heal them through that process. But you have to heal the reasons why you eat. So the payoffs. So what you have to do is then once you eat a food, very important here, once you eat a food, let go of the feeling of that comes afterwards. So if you eat a pizza and you feel bloated, let go of that feeling of feeling bloated. Let go of the guilt. Forgive yourself for feeling bloated. Just be kinder to yourself. So that was number 3, starting to forgive myself for eating. Then after that, letting go of my reactions to food, which actually was scary because once I let go of my reactions to food, like looking at the food and the desires to the food, so I would be like, oh, I want to eat a block of chocolate. At the start of quarantine, I was eating a block of chocolate a day. I gained like 4 kilos. And the reason why I say you got to surrender to your things, because at the time, emotionally, you free up a lot more energy when you allow yourself to just eat the chocolate, right? So we want to live easier. We want to be the person we're meant to be, and that is unbound. So I had to let go of the reactions. My food actually made me eat a little bit more because I was no longer holding myself back. I was eating a bit more. That was scary. So then I had to let go and forgive myself and heal all the grief of eating more. I was like, shit, I'm eating more. I hate this. I hate myself. So depressed. So shit. I messed up. Why am I doing this? A lot of dark emotions. And that's the thing. We start all of these. I find what people do is we start these habits. We have all of these habits to protect ourselves from ourselves. You know, we aren't angry at the world sometimes, we're actually angry at ourselves. So that's what I was doing. I was angry at myself for eating this food, but I was also allowing myself to just eat. So it was a bit of like a double-edged sword. My partner the entire time was hating watching me through this because she's like, if it makes you upset to eat the food, why would you eat the food? But I'm like, but I want to eat the food to be upset, to process the suppressed upsetness, which is the thing that's prompting me to eat it. So then after that, letting go of the underlying resolved suppressed hunger. After that, I actually noticed myself get hungrier more. You know, I'd actually allow myself, once I systematically was gone through a significant number of my cravings and weird attachments to food, I allowed myself to actually feel hungry. But that hunger, remember the rule is we're treating every sensation as our body as a suppressed or thing that is to be healed and thing that is to be forgiven for. I was starting to feel hungry. But hungry, like I realized there's a difference between hunger and hunger. And that's hard for me to explain right now, but I can explain it in terms of energy. So I've been using the same process to allow myself to become a lot more energetic. You know, if I need to work all night, need to. If I need to sleep more, I can sleep more. But generally speaking, I've been running on a lot less energy, and I've been operating at levels. I'll be working all night at like a night job, and then I have to go home and I have to do stuff and then sleep for a few hours and do stuff again, right? What's interesting is that I discovered through this process and letting go and forgiving myself and healing all of my tiredness, treating my tiredness as an emotional hang-up or an emotional reaction, what I actually learned was that a good majority of the time, the fatigue that I was feeling was actually emotional fatigue. It was all that thought like, oh God, I'm not gonna get enough sleep, or I'm not tired, like I didn't rest enough, I'm gonna be fucked over, like I just need to sleep more. It's all of these little things that I found that actually there's a difference between genuine fatigue and emotional fatigue. You know, emotional fatigue it's like, I would say it's the commonly understood fatigue. Genuine fatigue is like when someone's like, hey Sharam, how you going? And you're like, hello? It's the fatigue that is because your brain is just, it needs to be cleaned. It's not operating at the level it should be operating at. So there's a difference between like fatigue and emotional fatigue. And most people, I would say, are emotionally tired. It's all the negative self-talk we tell ourselves. So under this idea, they're technically, as I'm exploring now, the forefront of this meditation, weight loss through meditation spectrum, there should be a difference between hunger and hunger. The emotional hunger, so the suppressed hunger. So if we're treating hunger in your stomach or wherever you feel it as an emotion that is to be let go and to be healed, it suddenly dawned on me that there was a lot of suppressed hunger that I had stopped myself from feeling in childhood, maybe I inherited it, that needed to be let go of, to be healed, to be forgiven, to be loved, that I just needed to allow myself through. So I actually noticed that hunger not only became more enjoyable, but I was getting more of it, and it suddenly wasn't a big deal. Now, there's more to this, right? I'm just gonna do the whole list, fuck it. Looking at my body and let go of my reactions to it, so looking in the mirror, that's when I started to be called to look in the mirror and look at my body and to see that I actually truly didn't love my body. Like I didn't love myself through my body form, and I needed to let go of my reactions. And it's really interesting. After I did that, what happened was I suddenly separate myself from my body a bit more, which is interesting because now I can separate other people from their body. It's like we're a soul and a body, and my brain can suddenly tell the difference between the two. After that, finally letting go of the desire. Okay, so this is an interesting one. A good majority of the time, I've learnt that one of the reasons why we don't actually do the thing we want to do is because we're not done wanting it yet. Like we have an attachment to wanting it. So we think, I want this, 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 I want something to happen, I want this lifestyle, I want this body, I want this relationship. And what actually happens is we spend a long time wanting it and trying to want it and 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 want it. And that itself is a pattern to let go of. I like to think of it like, I remember this time where I was driving and all I could think about was money. I'm going to adjust the lighting. There was this time I was driving and all I could think of was money, right? And it was in that moment that it dawned on me that I hadn't finished wanting money enough. So we have these reactions because there's actually a payoff to desire. You know, sometimes it's safe being here. It's safe desiring something, but it's not safe doing it. It's like saying you want to start a business, but never doing it, because saying you want to start a business is safe, but starting a business is scary. But wanting the business is something to let go of. Wanting to lose weight, wanting the relationship is itself a barrier that stops you from connecting with someone. And this is something that's in the forefront of my consciousness. So I'm doing my best to explain it, but I'll get better at it. After that, I really felt very expansive. It felt like it was okay if I lost weight and it was okay if I didn't. And it's usually in this point that you start to make progress. So after that, I actually started to feel proud of my body, and actually for the first time in a very long time, I actually bought new clothes. So I bought this jacket, this t-shirt actually. This was only recent. This was like literally last couple days. The jacket that I wore in the last video, even though it was a bit scratchy, was also a new jacket because I looked in the mirror and I was actually able to look at myself and truly say, at the very least, I don't mind this body. I like this body. I stopped looking at myself as not my ideal weight, and I started looking at myself as who I was meant to be. Letting go around the guilt of eating more, offering myself forgiveness, and this is the last one, allowing myself to eat and fully enjoying the food allows me to let go of the feeling of enjoying food. So this was an interesting one. Letting go of the feeling. So suddenly I'd processed a lot of guilt and shame and suppressed sadness that I was trying to process through food, right? What interesting thing happened was then I had to let go of the feeling of actually enjoying food, because I was attracted to that feeling. I want to enjoy something, so I want to enjoy food. So what do? I had to let that go. I had to forgive myself for that. I had to heal that part of me, that attachment. The thing when you heal something about yourself, you can still do it, but it's from a different place. It's a lot more wholesome. It's sometimes a little bit detached. So letting go of enjoying food actually allowed me to step back and say, hey, I enjoy this food and that's okay, but I don't have to be in it. You know, was it in the world, but not of it is a commonly used phrase in the spiritual dimension. So that was an interesting thing. And there's a thing that I've learned about influence, which I want to do a whole topic on this, just as a quick aside, and this will relate in a second, is that often what I find is when you let go of something, when you've truly healed an aspect of yourself, you can see other people do it. And this is not always a bad thing. For example, when I let go of that enjoyment of food, I remember going out immediately afterwards. This is like in the last week, by the way. Immediately afterwards, going to a restaurant with friends and sitting down, having a meal, and witnessing them like kids. Like the food came and they feel like kids with a new toy. And I'd never seen that before, probably because that's what I was feeling. And that's the thickness of, that was the fog that I had with this attachment. So we have these attachments to food, I find. And this morning, I woke up and I was half a kilo less. Now, half a kilo is not a massive amount, depends on what you want, but you got to forgive yourself for the time it takes. So that's the one thing I've learned as well, is that if you want to create, sometimes good things take time, great things happen all at once, but sometimes you got to be patient, right? You want to create something, you want to pioneer something, you want to do something no one else has ever done. You've got to be patient and take the steps to map the progress and go down the path you need to go through. So weight loss by meditation. I'm sharing this because I want to share the process that I'm going through. It's not anywhere done, right? There is more things for me to map, in the emotional genome. I can only describe it. But in the same way that I've mapped relationships and I help people with relationships, this is something that I'd really like to do. Also, who doesn't like the idea of just sitting there meditating and losing weight, right? Like, it's just like, I don't have to exercise. The other thing is I actually went to the gym for the first time today because the gym's open just up in Australia because of coronavirus at times. And what's interesting was I used to have all of this negative stuff around the gym, like negative emotions, like, oh God, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I had to let go and heal of all of those things. So I went to the gym and was like, oh, but I'm not exercising enough. It's like, let's just let this go. Just do what you want to do. It's fine. And I actually had a lot of fun. So what's interesting is I want you to consider, at least to understand me more from this perspective, that sometimes we do things or go to spaces because it's those spaces that activate certain parts of our personality that are stuck. Because they are stuck. Either we are manifesting our higher self or we are doing therapy, basically. That's the only way I can describe it. For example, I mentioned before that I do a few nights shift at night. Sometimes when I'm working there, I feel so worthless, right? Especially when I started working there. That was something for me to let go and to heal and to forgive myself for all of those aspects that I felt really worthless in that space. Could I have felt worthless at home? Could I have done all the work at home? Sure. But sometimes life is a living, walking, breathing meditation. So we have all of these attachments to food, to work, to ourselves, to our image and all that sort of stuff. And that we can only access them sometimes through certain particular behaviors, places, stuff. So like going to the gym helps me access and heal while working on my body, working on my emotional body, my inner body, as well as the external body. Going to work at night allows me to deal with those feelings of worthlessness and all that sort of stuff, and allows me to actually become more energetic, more excited, unleash parts of me that actually make me more of a whole person, more of the person of who I was born to be. So thank you so much for watching this video. This has been a bit of a semi-manifesto when it comes to weight loss with meditation. I really feel like this is something that's going to be really cool. We're going to change the emotional landscape that people do things. It just doesn't mean you stop doing the diets. This doesn't mean you stop working out. This just means you add this when it is done. When I have finished enough, confident enough to just be like, all right, cool, this is done. You add this to whatever else you're doing, because you'll realize you'll be called to do things. You'll be called to do things because there is something to heal, to let go, to forgive yourself in those areas. So you'll be called to do yoga because stretching yourself, you'll be like, oh, I have a lot of pain in there. Maybe you got to let go of that pain. Yoga is very much like my partner, she does a lot of yoga. She calls it, what is it? A moving meditation. And I was like, oh, I never heard that before. You'll be called to the gym. You'll be called to eat less because maybe you've got to process suppressed hunger, suppressed guilt, suppressed shame. You know, I mentioned the prosciutto earlier on. I can't remember if I edited that out or not, but I used to I'd go to the shops, eat a packet of prosciutto, eat it by the time I get home and feel really guilty afterwards. The moment I processed, forgave myself and loved, and I let go of all of that guilt that I had from eating that prosciutto, that stopped being a habit. It's just, it's interesting, it's fascinating. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to stop eating, because that's where I was going with this. I was like, I want to start, I want to eat less, I want to eat less, I want to eat less, I want to eat less. And I finally got to a point where I was eating a lot less, and that wasn't healthy either. So I had to let go of eating less, because the goal is to manifest your ideal body, because we're trying to be the person we're born to be, right? So that requires letting go, forgiving yourself, healing, taking care of all the aspects of you that are blocking you from that, including the very desire. So thank you so much. If you did like this video, if you did watch it at this point, leave a like, leave a comment a question. If you have any questions, if you have any topics on dating, relationships, sexuality, letting go, health now, please comment them below and I'll talk to you soon. All right, thank you. Bye.